In this episode, you'll see how image generation can continue into image editing inside the same workflow. As we've already seen, nodes in Spaces do not follow one fixed order. The sequence depends on your project, your process, and the kind of system you want to build. What matters is understanding what each step can do, so you can decide where it makes the most sense inside your flow. For this example, we're starting with a prompt that is already written inside a text node, and that prompt is feeding an image generator. We already know these nodes from earlier episodes. So here the focus is not on introducing them again, but on understanding how image generation can continue into image editing inside the same workflow. At this point, our image generator has already produced a result. In this case, the prompt describes a cinematic interior car shot of a police officer and his wingman driving through Los Angeles. If we double-click the generated image, it opens in a larger view. And right away you can see that this image already gives you a few options. At the top right, the first icon lets you add the image directly to your space. This creates a copy of the image on the canvas so you can start working with it inside your workflow. Right next to it, the next icon opens the image information. This shows the prompt used to generate it, the model, and the aspect ratio. Next to that, you'll find Sketch, which can be used for comments and annotations. And then just beside it, you'll see Edit. If you open it, you arrive at an editing layout that is very close to the one you know from our first course. Here you'll find the same editing tools you've used before, including options like Edit, Retouch, Resize, and others. They behave in the same way as they do in the regular interface, so we are not going to explain each one again in depth here. If you want a full breakdown of what every editing tool does, go check our first course, where each one is covered in detail. And finally, you'll find the download option, which lets you save the image directly to your device. What matters here is understanding why direct editing exists inside Spaces, and how it differs from using a dedicated editing node. This direct editing route is useful for quick creative exploration. You generate an image, open it, and continue shaping it immediately from there. That makes it fast, intuitive, and very natural when you simply want to keep creating on top of the results you already have. But Spaces also gives you another way of thinking. Instead of editing inside the generated image, you can turn that edit into its own visible step by adding an edit image node. That is the approach we want to focus on here. Because in Spaces, the most important idea is not only using tools, but turning actions into connected steps. So let's add an edit image node. Then we connect the generated image output from the image generator to the input image port of the edit image node. Now the flow is clear. First, the prompt exists as text. Then that text becomes an image. And now that image becomes the input for a transformation step. This is exactly the kind of chained logic that defines how Spaces works. The edit image node receives an image, lets you transform it, and then returns a modified image as output. That means the edit is no longer just something you do on top of a result. It becomes part of the workflow itself, and this brings a few important advantages. Your original image can remain untouched. The edited version becomes a separate step. You can disconnect it, reconnect it, or branch that edited result toward other nodes later on. So while editing directly from the generated image is useful for quick creative work, using an edit image node makes the transformation more structured, more visible, and easier to reuse as part of a larger system. Now let's look at the node itself. It works with one image input at a time. So in this case, the generated image from the previous step becomes the active input for the edit. If you look closely, you'll also notice that this node includes many of the same editing tools you already know. Remember, we're not analyzing each one in depth here. The first tool we see is Crop Image. Here you choose the aspect ratio you want, and then you can work in two ways. If auto crop is disabled, you can use the pencil tool at the lower right of the node and manually position the crop wherever you want. If auto crop is enabled, a small text field appears, and you can describe what you want the crop to focus on. For example, in this image, you might tell it to focus on the police officer on the left, and the system will adjust the crop automatically based on that instruction. Each change you make is stored inside the node. That means you can move through different results and recover the version you need by selecting it from the history at the top left. Alongside Crop Image, you'll find the other editing tools you already know, such as Expand Image, Change Camera, and the rest of the editing set we already know. For example, Expand Image also includes an automatic mode and works with aspect ratios in a very similar way. So again, the goal here is not to relearn each feature. What matters is understanding what it means to have all of these transformations living inside a dedicated step of the workflow. And that is really the main idea we want to leave you with in this episode. In Spaces, there are two ways to approach this kind of image editing. You can continue working directly from the generated image for quick creative exploration, or use an Edit Image node to make that transformation a separate, connected step in the workflow. That is what makes image-related nodes so valuable here. They turn creative actions into structured steps that can grow with your process. In the next episodes, we'll keep building on this logic as we continue expanding the workflow. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.